Windows 11's latest update is causing chaos. Crashes, privacy nightmares, and confusing features are pushing users to Linux and Mac.
Microsoft's official solution? Uninstall the update and wait for the next one.
Take your freedom back. Dump Windows.
Is Microsoft losing its grip on the PC world? For decades, Windows has been the default operating system for the world's PCs. But in 2026, something started to change. The latest Windows 11 updates didn't just annoy users, they pushed many of them to the edge.
Well, he said last financial resort, so are they failing? Like, is this the beginning of the end?
Across forums and social media, complaints began piling up. Random crashes, forced features nobody asked for, privacy concerns that made even longtime Windows loyalists uncomfortable. And for the first time in years, a noticeable number of users weren't just complaining, they were actually leaving because they have had enough. So what changed? Why are longtime Windows users suddenly hesitating to update? And most importantly, when did the operating system people trusted for decades start making them feel watched instead of protected? Some people claimed Bill Gates freaking out behind the scenes. But that wasn't all. The reality is a lot more unsettling. The backlash against Windows 11 is very real, and it highlights a growing disconnect between Microsoft's vision and what everyday users actually want. Adoption of Windows 11 has been slower than expected, even with Windows 10 approaching end of support. Features like aggressive cloud integration, heavy telemetry, and controversial AI tools have made many users pause and think twice before upgrading. Instead of excitement, the latest updates have created hesitation. So the big question now isn't just whether Windows made mistakes, it's whether Microsoft can rebuild trust before many users decide they've had enough and jump ship and start looking elsewhere. Microsoft didn't just release Windows 11, it rebuilt the rules overnight. And for millions of users, that's exactly where the trouble began.
They're making it impossible to use Windows without giving them your data.
One of the biggest pain points hit early. Millions of perfectly working PCs were suddenly labeled unsupported. Machines that ran Windows 10 smoothly with fast boot times and stable performances were told they needed new hardware. And for many users, that felt less like progress and more like being pushed into an unnecessary upgrade. When did upgrading stop feeling like progress and start feeling mandatory? That kind of fragmentation makes users nervous, because once people start feeling like their perfectly good hardware is being left behind, loyalty weakens fast. And combined with buggy updates and performance complaints, the confidence gap around Windows 11 only continues to grow. And even for those who did upgrade, the experience often didn't feel smoother. Users frequently describe Windows 11 as heavier and more sluggish. You open File Explorer, it starts to lag. Even opening the Start menu will keep you waiting. There are random audio glitches. These things might seem small, but combined, they're an awful experience. And over time, the system starts to feel bloated instead of refined. Then, there's the interface. Windows 11 just looks modern, but once you start using it, the friction shows. Common actions now take extra clicks. The taskbar lost features people had relied on for years. Settings feel split between the old control panel and the new menus, creating a weird, unfinished feeling that frustrates power users especially. And the complaints don't stop there. Pre-installed apps, start menu promotions, lock screen suggestions. Many users keep asking the same uncomfortable question: why does an operating system I paid for feel like it's trying to sell me things? Individually, an issue might seem small. Together, they create something much bigger. A slow erosion of trust that Windows had built over decades. If the strict requirements frustrated users, the updates that followed made things even worse. Because once Windows 11 finally landed on millions of machines, the real problems started showing up. And well, they weren't small. Throughout 2025 and into 2026, several cumulative updates triggered waves of complaints. Users reported black screens after reboot, and in some cases, even missing files after installation. Forums filled up fast, and rollback guides started trending almost immediately. That is never a good sign. And at one point, Microsoft quietly acknowledged that one update had not gone as planned. Many users didn't wait for fixes. They simply uninstalled the update or paused updates entirely. Gamers felt the impact especially hard.
GPU didn't get worse, Windows made it worse.
Performance regressions began popping up across different builds. Frame rates dipped in certain titles. CPU usage spiked where it shouldn't. Battery life on some laptops took a noticeable hit. And for a platform that has long dominated PC gaming, even small performance drops create loud backlash. And that backlash came quickly. The internet sensationalized the situation. Some creators pushed the story even further, claiming Bill Gates was freaking out behind the scenes. Was Bill Gates publicly freaking out? No. But definitely behind the scenes, because when millions of users start questioning your flagship product, that's not something any founder ignores. Bill Gates has been the name tied to Microsoft since decades. The reputation took years to build, but took a few poor upgrades to crack. Windows 11's push for deep integration didn't stop at updates in hardware. Features like forced OneDrive backups and AI tools such as Copilot popping up uninvited quickly turned convenience into concern.
You are not a Microsoft slave. You own your device. Take your freedom back. Dump Windows.
Users began feeling less like the owners of their PCs and more like data sources for Microsoft's ecosystem. Imagine doing something personal on your PC because that's what personal computers are for. Maybe you're working. Maybe it's a private chat. Maybe it's banking info. It could be anything you never want to go public. But what you don't want is exactly what Microsoft wants. In the background, your operating system is taking snapshots of your screen. That's the fear that exploded around Recall. The Recall feature only made things worse. You'll think it's a cool feature to store photographic memory on your PC by automatically capturing screenshots. That does seem cool, but the place where these photos are being stored lack proper encryption. This means your sensitive passwords, documents, and personal activity could potentially be accessed by malware or anyone with physical access. Even with later security patches and opt-in settings, the perception stuck. Windows was watching, storing, and sometimes exposing private data. For longtime users, that's a trust issue. When an operating system starts feeling invasive, adoption slows, and users begin exploring alternatives where privacy and control aren't constantly in question. Now, if your operating system is constantly collecting data, is it really still your computer? As privacy concerns, buggy updates, and confusing hardware splits piled up, users began voting with their feet. IT teams, developers, and everyday consumers started exploring alternatives. Linux, which was once considered to be very technical, is becoming a practical option. With easier installations, Steam Proton for gaming, and lightweight performance, it steadily gained the trust of people who were frustrated with Windows and wanted control and stability. Surveys showed a noticeable upward trend in Linux adoption. macOS also benefited from Windows' blunders. It became popular among professionals who praised its predictability, consistent performance, and lack of intrusive telemetry. Enterprises that had relied heavily on Windows began quietly testing Mac deployments, drawn by stability over flashy features. Even Chrome OS found traction outside schools, as small businesses and casual users appreciated its simplicity, low maintenance, and security. For Microsoft, the situation was getting out of hand. Users aren't switching because they dislike Windows branding. They're leaving because trust eroded and practical value was overshadowed by hype. Without a clear reason to upgrade, even loyal customers are considering alternatives that respect their privacy, performance, and control. Windows 11 may still dominate globally, but cracks in loyalty are becoming impossible to ignore. The cracks in Windows 11 adoption hint at a larger problem for Microsoft. With users migrating to Linux, macOS, and even Chrome OS, Windows is no longer guaranteed as the default choice. Developers, noticing the shift, may start prioritizing other platforms, further shrinking the ecosystem. With new Windows requiring newer hardware, the older ones are left behind, and many users felt forced to upgrade just to keep up. Without regaining trust, these control-heavy updates are just making it harder for people. Innovation alone isn't enough, and Windows understood this the hard way. Users want value, stability, and privacy. And if Microsoft can't rebuild confidence, Windows may no longer be the unchallenged standard it once was. And if your PC stopped feeling like it was yours, would you actually stay? What do you think? Are AI PCs the future or just overhyped? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.